4.
You know what would also be good, Dr. Hood, is if you ask people who may be here stepping in for someone, because they may be here as a representative, and we may not know that.
Yeah, I understand. They're not counted as a quorum, though.
Oh, okay.
We went through that whole issue. I mean, we will stop, and I'm going to give a few more minutes. Yeah, I see Tony, is that the police department? Is that correct? Tony?
Yes.
Okay.
Chief Adolfo's coming in. Genevieve is in.
I'm Genevieve.
Hello,
Oh, Pastor Tony shared, he called that number, but it didn't recognize the conference ID. He has 668-779-303 for the ID. Let me see what. Yeah. That's what I have too from the email.
Okay. Just to see who's on that I can count as a quorum. Myself, Dana, Gonzalez, Pastor Mario,
Presente.
and that's it. Anybody else? That's a commissioner that's on?
I didn't hear Dr. Hood, but this is Genevieve Jones-Wright.
Oh, Genevieve. All right. Okay.
And good evening, Dr. Hood. I'm not a commissioner, Andrew Hayden, but I'm going to be representing the United States Attorney's Office for Mr. Brewer tonight.
Brewer. Okay, thank you.
So Pastor Sandoval, Tony can hear us, but we cannot hear him. Do we have any, you know how Zoom gives you a handful of different phone numbers to call into? You know, possibly there's another phone number to call into, and it's odd that ID number doesn't work.
If he can hear us, maybe he's muted. That's the only thing I can think of. Because if the line was down, he wouldn't be able to hear us.
It looks like maybe you are muted. Oh, that's Jorge. No, sorry.
Okay. For those of us who are on, are we being recorded?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we don't officially have a quorum. Hopefully, before we end, we will have one. So while we are on recording, let me do my introductory statement as chair. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Rodney Hood, chair of the Gang Commission of Prevention and Intervention. And I want to share a few facts about the commission. The purpose of the commission is to develop a strategic collaborative effort between various agencies who work with gang-related issues, making policy recommendations to the mayor and city council. Our commission is made up of 21 dedicated members of the community and office holders. We meet every other month and endeavor to bring together a collaboration. Meetings are official city meetings governed by the Brown Act, which requires open meetings and encourages public access. The public will have the opportunity to address the commissioners when it's time. Their time will be asked to be limited to 2 minutes or less, and we will appreciate your comments. I appreciate any visitors that are on, and welcome to the Gang Commission. Minutes have gone out to the commissioners. I will await later on in the agenda to see if we have a quorum to approve. So just for the record, if I could ask the commissioners who are on to do a roll call, and I'm going to start with myself. Commissioner Rodney Hood, Public Health, is present. Next, I see Dana. You want to?
Absolutely. Commissioner Dana Brown, District 7, present. Grateful to be here with all of you.
Okay.
Commissioner Mario Valladolid, Area 1, present.
Okay.
Pastor Archie Robinson, 4th District.
Thank you.
Chief Probation Officer Adolfo Gonzalez.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Genevieve Jones-Wright, District 3 Representative.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think the others are guests, and so with that, we have a presentation to be done by Andrew Pickert, Workforce Partnership. And I'm going to ask if Andrew is prepared for the presentation.
I'm good to go. Can you all see me, hear me, see my PowerPoint?
We do now.
Great. Good evening, everyone. I'm Andrew Pickard. I'm the Chief Programs Officer for the San Diego Workforce Partnership. I appreciate the time today and ability to share a little bit about our work with you all. What I hope to cover in the next 15 minutes or so is a little bit about who we are, if you're not familiar already. What does workforce development look like for the county in the age of COVID-19? Some of the intersections of our work at the Workforce Partnership with justice system partners, like everyone involved with the commission. Some data and alignment around the issues of racial justice that we've talked about at last meeting, and hoping to leave time for questions. As I'm presenting, if there's any questions, please stop me. I'm happy to be interrupted. Just shout my name. So we're the Workforce Partnership. Every county across the country has a local workforce development agency. That's what we are. We serve all job seekers and employers in the county. We're a little bit of an odd duck, and in most places we would be a county agency. We're an independent nonprofit, much like SANDAG or the Housing Commission are independent agencies authorized by the city and county. So we've actually got two boards, one made up of all the major businesses across the county. And then we have our joint board of both city council members and county supervisors, and we're currently chaired by Supervisor Cox. So what do we do? What does workforce development mean? We primarily serve job seekers. We offer career coaching, job leads, workshops. We help pay for training. We also serve businesses. So we have subsidies, information for businesses on hiring, human resources, and upskilling their workforce. We collaborate with regional partners, and we also have a think tank that studies regional labor market data. So local unemployment numbers, what industries are impacted by COVID-19, all of that data you see is coming from our researchers. Primarily, we exist to serve those that are vulnerable populations or who have the most barriers to work. And so I think that's why we really align with the Commission's work and particularly serving those who've been involved in the justice system. Prior to COVID, we operated at sites all across the county. We saw upwards of 100,000 visitors throughout the year that would walk in to get Career Center services, take advantage of our computer labs, file for unemployment. This is a look at kind of where we operate. And obviously that's changed because of COVID-19. And I'll talk a little bit about how do we offer workforce services in a remote environment. And here's just a quick look at all of the active partnerships that we have across the county. And this is not an exhaustive list, but some of who we primarily partner with. So that's a look at who we are and what we do. How has COVID-19 been shaping our workforce and local economy? And going to share some data. Just to call out, any of the data points I'm sharing with you all today it's all public information, and you can find on our website at workforce.org/research. Here's a quick look at some of the industries and sectors that have been impacted and seeing the greatest layoffs. I'm sure it's not a surprise to anyone that hospitality, restaurants, retail, recreation are most impacted. I'm seeing in the chat that someone is having trouble seeing the screen. Can everyone on Teams see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll keep going then. Another look at data. So if you had caught me a week later, I could have given you all August unemployment numbers for San Diego. We're getting ready to publish August numbers. We're still seeing record highs. What this slide shows you is about where we were at during the Great Recession, starting in 2008, and then just how significantly we were impacted in the timeframe of COVID-19. So we're thinking that August numbers are likely to come in around 10% unemployment, which is still remarkably high and still what we consider crisis levels for our region. What does that mean for us in San Diego and comparing these numbers across the country compared to California? Unfortunately, we're trailing. And what I do want to say to the community leaders on this call, unemployment is just one way to look at the health of our workforce and the health of our economy. What it doesn't include in unemployment is all of those people who've given up or are unable to claim unemployment insurance benefits in the first place, which is a lot of people. So another way to look at it, as this slide shows, is just how many less jobs do we have compared to this time last year or before the pandemic. And there's still 167,000 less jobs available in San Diego. So another way to look at kind of where we are and what does the workforce look like. I will say all of this is public information too, so if you're on the Zoom or YouTube and unable to see, I'm happy to share these slides after the meeting. One thing that our data has been showing us too, that I think is no surprise to the leaders on this call, is that unemployment disproportionately impacts people of color, women, and young people. So this is a look at the percentage point increase of unemployment based on those different demographics. I'm hearing a bit of feedback, so there we go. Someone needed to mute. Also, just as we look at our regional labor market information that I've been sharing, an important fact as we're still recovering from COVID is those who are able to work remote and those like us who have the benefit of being able to work remotely right now. Disproportionately low-income part-time employees were impacted and unable to continue work. So what do we do about that when we're faced with times of crisis for our workforce and economy? How do we, as public leaders, shift our services, shift our strategies? So we have over 60 plus career center staff, career coaches who are standing by working from home right now. We quickly shifted them to be able to engage with those 100,000 or more customers, job seekers a year. Enrollment into our programs is all being conducted via DocuSign and online.
Wayne Woodley
is now exiting.
We've shifted training services. We have on-demand job training programs that you can access online at any time, 24/7, as well as paying for local education programs through our partners online as well. This is a look at our website where anyone, job seekers, businesses, community partners, practitioners who are trying to help folks can go online and find out more. And I'm going to call it a few features that we've added since COVID-19 to help folks in a more remote environment. One of which is our chat box. So anyone can chat with a career coach at any time, ask questions, get help. That can also be done via SMS, and the details for that are on the screen now. Additionally, we have a regional career portal that you see here. Anyone can create an account. You'll be able to see these are all jobs. This is not like Indeed. Unlike Indeed, that is just a clearinghouse. These are employers that we have relationships with in the county who are willing to hire, and will support you with resume growth and career coaching for all the job seekers accessing our portal. I mentioned our on-demand training library. This is curated job training videos, whether that's in coding, tech, life sciences, or just general essential skills. These are available at any time, 24/7, for folks to pursue and upskill if they're down on their luck or without work. We've also recently launched a new tool called My Next Move, where anyone who's experienced job loss or is trying to explore what are the in-demand and growing job sectors, you can explore those priority sectors here. You can take a quiz about your strengths and skills and interests and get matched to not only what are those open, growing in-demand jobs, but what are the training and credentials needed in order to qualify for those jobs? So I talked very quickly and shared a lot of information about what workforce development is and what it looks like now during COVID-19. How does this intersect with our justice system partners, and what is the work we're doing specifically for justice-involved individuals in San Diego County? Want to give a brief history of our work partnering closely with the Sheriff's Department and Probation Department on a project called Reentry Works. It first started from Department of Labor funded program to create job centers in jails. We were one of the first in the nation in 2015 to be able to operate computer labs, career centers, do job training programs in person. We've seen a ton of success, so much so Governor Brown came down and spoke and brought business leaders together to talk about the 2 job centers that we operate inside correctional facilities. It's operated by Second Chance, and the whole goal of the program is to connect folks who are in the system to our public system, our public support system that I was just talking about, and making sure that we're reducing recidivism. When we look back at our programs operating in East Mesa and Las Colinas, I think there's a lot to attribute to the success. A lot of thanks goes to our partners at sheriffs and probation departments. Sheriffs have provided a computer lab. They've let us bring in employers, so we're actually bringing in businesses to conduct interviews prior to release. We've served over 1,300 people, and nearly 70% of all of our participants have achieved long-term employment. And those who've participated in our program have seen a recidivism reduction or recidivism rate of 17% compared to the state average of 66%. So a great return on investment for our programs working with the justice involved. And I think, the data shows why we come to the table and participate with important groups like the commission is we know that when working with justice involved individuals, stable housing and employment are the number one drivers for public safety, or can be attributed, is what research shows us. So we've done additional research. These grants that I mentioned that started our work in this area also funded us to do research on justice-involved individuals in our region, as well as employers' attitudes towards hiring justice-involved. So I'm going to share a bit of this research. This is not all of it. I'm happy to share more detailed versions of these reports if anyone would like it. But some of the highlights from our report and research for the justice-involved, showing, as many people have a criminal record as they do college degrees. Additionally, when we look at this from a racial justice lens, Californians has the highest felony record rate of Black individuals. And as we invest our workforce and job training programs into the justice system, we see we have over 24 laws on the record that restrict, limit, prohibit justice-involved individuals from getting those jobs. So namely, making headlines right now are the firefighters who are inmate firefighters battling and risking their lives. Currently, there's a law recently passed allowing expungement, but that is a former restricted job prospect, one of 2,400 restrictions currently blocking job prospects.
Andrew, could I ask?
Yes.
Could you go back to the last slide?
Yeah.
So putting a equity lens on, you say it's the highest, 12% of Blacks in California have a felony record. As far as workforce partnership, is there a specific strategy you have to impact Blacks, realizing that they have one of the highest numbers? What do you do to address that number?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're realigning our funding to be population specific and recognize the groups or populations that have the highest disconnection from work or the highest barriers to opportunity and what we're doing to funding. So I will get there momentarily on those strategies. It's a great question. So like I said, we're training many justice-involved individuals in jobs. They're performing those jobs, but then they're barred from doing them on release, firefighting and barbers as an example. Another study we put together was just looking at identical fictitious resumes and assigning a criminal record and looking at response rates of employers if giving a traditional white sounding name versus a traditional Black sounding name. And unfortunately, those resumes, identical resumes of a Black sounding name, received a 50% less likely callback rate. And a lot of this research has been done before. We aren't the only groups to study these employer attitudes or trends towards hiring, but sharing this information with the community is part of the advocacy we're trying to do. Not only access to jobs do we look at, but tracking across the county what families' wealth has looked like and median family wealth. And particularly important as we talk about rebuilding our economy, doing that in an inclusive way and recognizing the wealth gaps that exist, wealth gaps between race, also wealth gaps between gender. The callback, here's just the percentages of callbacks with a clean record and felony record with the fictitious white applicant names versus Black applicant names to illustrate the point there in that data. So to the earlier point, what are we doing at the Workforce Partnership? How are we listening, learning, and acting from what we've done? We've committed ourselves. We're talking the talk. We're sending emails out like this in partnership with our vice chair, Councilmember Montgomery. But not only talking, but looking at funding. So this is the point I was referencing earlier is, it's not just our words and values, but how do we change the programming that we're funding in San Diego community to recognize the disconnection, recognize the injustice that exists. So we study the disconnection rates. We have our largest youth RFP is coming up. We're going to be releasing about $5 million that any organization can bid on to operate workforce development, economic opportunity programming. Our approach is a little bit different. Before, we just release the money to the county and come one, come all, apply, tell us how you're going to serve youth. We're doing it differently this time. We're going to have one county-wide provider that'll serve any and all youth. But the second prong of our RFP is to award 4 population-specific contracts. And we landed on these 4 populations with our research showing where did we see the highest disconnection. And those populations we want to request bids on are for the homeless or housing insecure, individuals who are involved in the justice system, immigrants and refugees, and Black opportunity youth. And there you can see the regional disconnection rates for each of those populations in our county. So our expectation is that, we recognize that we aren't experts in all things, and the programs we're funding should be from providers who have competency, experience, who are ingrained in the communities that we're trying to serve, as well as demonstrating evidence-based principles. So happy to share this presentation with you and get the word out about our RFP, where we've taken great steps to make sure the voice of youth are engaged. So we actually have 12 paid youth interns who are helping us form the RFP and make sure that it's human-centered and a community-centered approach. We also have our board working group made up of staff from county supervisors, city council members, education, and business leaders. For more information about this upcoming funding opportunity and how we can shift opportunities to address issues for Black opportunity youth or for justice involved, the email you see on the screen, youthrfp@workforce.org. For questions, we're seeking evaluators. So if you're a community leader, a community expert, and want to help us inform and rate and evaluate these proposals to see where our funding is going in the community, we're seeking evaluators, you can reach out to me or the email or website you see on your screen. So with that, I'll wrap up. Happy to be thinking about other strategies that I may have missed. Appreciate your time and any questions you might have.
So, thank you, Andrew. I'm going to ask the commissioners if any of them have any questions. Please unmute and speak up.
Thank you, Andrew. This is Commissioner Brown. This is just uplifting to see that there was a pivot to become more equity focused and population funded. And was this something, Andrew, the slide deck could be added and shared with the commissioners following the meeting? I have something I'm doing on the weekend and I would love to embed and give the source back to you, but embed in the slide deck if possible.
Absolutely. I've shared the link to Pastor Sandoval, and my email's listed on the screen. I can send it directly to any folks. All of this is public information and reports that we've already released. So there's even more detail I can share as well.
I will also make sure to upload it to our website, the commission website.
If we could stop sharing.
Dr. Hood, I just wanted to recognize that Commissioner Cindy Martin has her hand up and probably wants to speak.
Thank you.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Hood. Can you all hear me okay?
We can.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Andrew, I wanted to thank you. We have a great partnership with the Workforce Partnership with San Diego Unified, and what you lifted up today, I think what's important is that we go past admiring the problem and loving the problem and having good reports that just show us what the problem is to actual action. And between the African American Achievement Summit that we work with you, we have a really powerful collaborative partnership that includes the ongoing support. And this initiative has been going on since 2018, and it really does give this focused effort to our African American students and this Achievement Summit with real classes and concrete actions that the kids get experiences with. So that's one thing. Then the San Diego Opportunity Youth Summit that we just finished, the one in 2019, that gives concrete strategies that bridge the gap. and the gaps that we found, in the data from the disconnected youth through ages 16 through 24, again, past loving and admiring the problem into what are we going to do about it? So our kids had the opportunity to perform at the summit. We worked with a partnership with Movement B that allowed them to describe ways to change the narrative of underserved communities and did it through artistic expression. So that's another great partnership that we have with you. And just the fact that the research is informing all the reports on our disconnected youth, we really appreciate that. And the latest thing is the Next Move platform. We just look forward as a district to providing information to our counselors regarding this new platform that was just unveiled on September 1st, I think it was. It's a really valuable resource for our students to gain awareness of their college and career goals. And I will speak as the superintendent saying we're happy to be sharing this, and what you've put together is incredibly powerful and takes advantage of the digital or the online platforms that our kids can get access to real support. And then I'm going to say it as a mother. My son is 26 and he test drove the platform because he's entering the job market himself. And I said, Andrew, my son's name is Andrew too. I said, check out this platform. I'm going to just make sure all of the kids in our district have it. And there's resume writing skills, there's classes, there's coaching, there's career counseling. So you are all about naming the problem, but going past it to action. And our children in this region benefit because we change the narrative and we give real tools so they can have real change and become real contributing, participating members of our beloved community. So we really thank you for your work.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Hood, if I could make a quick comment too.
Sure, please.
Andrew, thank you for your presentation. As you know, many of our returning citizens have a high criminogenic needs, and some of the needs are, like you said, housing and education and job force readiness. So we appreciate everything you're doing, helping us help our clients be successful in the community. It's a collaborative goal. So thank you for doing that. We really appreciate it.
I'm not, any other comments from commissioners?
Yes, we have a few more hands up. Genevieve, and then Alberto, and then Amanda.
Thank you, Pastor Sandoval. Thank you for this presentation, and thank you for making it available to the commissioners. My question is, where can we find the resume study that you highlighted in reference? You say Pager and Goldman, but I would really love to be able to access that study. So can you give us a link, or can you provide that to Pastor Sandoval to make available to the rest of the commissioners?
I'm happy to provide those links. My email is andrewpicard@workforce.org and was on the screen. I'll put it in the chat, and I'll also send out to the pastor so he can send as a follow-up to all in the meeting.
Thank you.
Next.
Yeah, hi. Good evening, Andrew. My name is Beto Vasquez. I want to thank you again for the presentation, as well as, just echo everybody's sentiment. I'm curious to know a little bit more about if the San Diego Workforce Partnership is currently doing anything into looking for STEM opportunities. The workforce in STEM is one of the largest growing ones, actually greater than in the other labor sectors. And so I'm curious to find out if there's any work that you're currently doing to kind of bring together both of these different spaces.
Yeah, that's a great question, and a program I'd love to share more about. One program we're doing STEM specific is our Tech Hire program, both with the City of San Diego and City of Chula Vista, that is all about getting opportunity or disconnected youth, people of color, or women, underrepresented populations in the tech industry, internships, paid work experience, and educational opportunities into San Diego's tech sector. It's been wildly successful. We've got over a 90% job placement and retention rate for participants. That information is also on our website, but it is one program for specific cities, and we currently don't have a county-wide STEM initiative. I'd love to be able to grow our resources and offer programming like that to folks across the county.
Thank you. And so that tech hire program, is that just for high school students currently that meet that criteria?
Nope, it is it is for individuals 18 above, and eligibility is on a city basis, and enrollment is prioritized by those who are traditionally underrepresented populations. So a few of the populations that I mentioned. I'll send a link for more info into the chat.
Excellent. Thank you. I'll be following up.
Thank you.
Amanda?
Okay, thanks for that, Andrew. I really appreciate it. So I'm wondering, because I know for the tactical plan, you gave me some other information about more of events. I would love to condense this so I can fit it into the tactical plan. Do you have anything written up, or do you want to schedule another call so we can figure out what points to highlight?
We could schedule another call. I think Cindy mentioned a lot of the things that we've partnered on, that we've covered in the past in the plan, and a lot of this is new and ongoing strategies that we're implementing as well. So all of the above, happy to include more.
Okay, I will email you after this. Thank you.
Any other questions? I don't see any hands. So I too, Andrew, want to.
Oh, go ahead.
Am I missing? Yeah, I too, Andrew, want to thank you for your presentation, and specifically adding the equity lens to the data that you showed, and I really appreciate that. So no other questions from the commissioners. Thank you so much for that presentation.
Yeah. I wanted to thank Andrew for your presentation. It's awesome to hear what the Workforce Partnership is doing on a practice level. I know you are, making an impact in the community, giving folks a second chance, and our youth and adults. And so as commissioners, our goal, our strategy is to network together, leverage the resources we do have, so that we're tackling things on a policy level, program level, and practice level. So we appreciate what you're doing, even on a research and funding level. We appreciate that. And as the commissioners are aware of all that's going on, all the hidden treasures that each and every one of you bring to the table, we want to make sure we display that as a commission and put it on the website and collaborate, network, leverage all of these resources to get it out into the community as much as possible. So thank you so much.
Okay. So with that, I believe we may have a quorum. I understand we just heard Cindy Martin. Another commissioner president is Alberto Vasquez. That wasn't at roll call. We have Commissioner Ventron and Commissioner Ray King. I believe that puts us at a quorum. As chair, I would then like to go back to the approval of the minutes on the agenda, which was sent out earlier. And since they were sent out, I will accept a motion from a commissioner to approve the minutes from July 6th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from July 6th?
Yes, Commissioner Mario Valladolid, motion to approve minutes.
Is there a second?
Second, Commissioner Brown.
Okay, it's been second. Then any abstentions? Okay. Then I'd like to ask for a vote to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And let me ask again, any opposed? And are there any abstentions? Sometimes abstention is appropriate if you weren't at that meeting. So, okay, so the minutes have been approved. I appreciate that. The next thing on the agenda is the public comment. Do we have anybody in the queue in the public that wishes to talk? Pastor Sandoval?
Nothing.
Nothing? Okay. Then no public comment. There are no commissioner highlights. We have no action items. I'm going to go to the informational point of the agenda and go to the update on gang case statistics involving the San Diego Police Department. If you can let me know who's giving the presentation from the San Diego Police Department.
That might be Tonalesa, and he, yes, okay, he shared in the chat. Once again, I apologize for the lack of audio. Fortunately, we do not have any gang-related homicides or attempted homicides since our last reporting period. However, we have had 16 shootings and 5 robberies. Our gang intervention unit continues to work with the youth in the Linda Vista community. They attend daily meetings at 3 schools. We are trying to expand the program to Central Division.
Okay. Appreciate that input, and thank you, Commissioner Brown. Anybody have any questions on that report? Okay. I'd like to go to the probation department with Commissioner Adolfo Gonzalez or his representative to give the update.
Thank you, Dr. Hood. Today, I believe we have a couple of our command staff.
You went mute. Didn't hear you. Still don't hear you.
Must be his earpiece.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, took it out the earpiece. Let me introduce a couple of our command staff that are here today. Assistant Chief Ruben Leiva, he runs the every day-to-day operation of the department. We have Cesar Esquero, he's the Executive Deputy Chief over the adult side. And Scott Weithart, he's the Executive Deputy Chief over juvenile side. And we also have Division Chief Tabitha Wilburn and Division Chief Jorge Gonzalez, who, as you know, Jason Rush retired, left the state. So we have 4 people that take his place. So let me turn it over to Tabitha first. I think they have anything to say on the juvenile side. Tabitha?
Well, good evening, everyone. We're going to have Ronald Van, who is going to provide that information. Love you, Ron. Can you provide the statistics on the Resilience and Achievement Centers, Ron?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Supervisor Ron Van, I supervise the juvenile gang unit out of probation. And first, I'd like to say good evening, commissioners, and I hope everybody's doing well. Currently, we are still manning minimal staffing in our offices. Officers are telephonically reaching out to youth and conducting contacts. We have begun to slowly venture back out into the community and meet with the high-risk youth to ensure that they are doing all right during this COVID pandemic time and to ascertain any needs they may need and see how we can help them. Currently, we have several programs our youth are participating in. One is the Achievement Center, of which they currently have 12 youth enrolled there. They're providing programming such as Project Aware, the San Diego Youth Development Foundation. They got a variety of options for projects youth can complete for community service. They also have some guest speakers coming in. The David Hart Foundation, which is music, engineering, and development. They also do a Reason to Survive. It's a art class, excuse me, and comic creations. All this programming is currently done virtually through Zoom, Monday to Friday. As far as the San Diego Resilience, which encompasses youth empowerment and Project Aware, they have 17 currently enrolled, of which 12 are actively participating in the program. They've had 3 that have successfully completed programming through them. Groups meet twice a week. Sessions occur weekly. They also meet, Resilience also meets monthly with probation, and we discuss youth that are in need of perhaps more intervention or more community involvement with the probation officer or their mentor to see how we can assist them in being successful. Choice currently has 27 people involved, and they have 4 pending referral. As I said, officers are still referring youth to programs such as drug treatment. We're working with the schools, since school is done virtually, to see how we can assist in any way with the youth that we have in school. What else? Let's see. And that's pretty much it on the juvenile side.
Okay.
Thank you, Jorge. How about on the adult side? Supervisor Marissa available? Jorge Gonzalez, are you there?
Good afternoon, everyone. Jorge Gonzalez, Division Chief. For the adult side, basically what we are doing at this time and doing some similar process to what the adult side is doing, we're right now focused on a wellness concept of checking in with everyone that we have not had the ability to have face-to-face contacts with. So we are working with our partners, with SDSO and some of the city PD agencies to try to do some contacts on after hours, on weekends. We know that there's a lot of mental health issues that need to be addressed out there that we are not aware of at this time, but we're definitely making efforts to try to connect with people a little bit more than we have in the past. As you all may be aware, the courts are slowly starting to open up as well. So we're trying to also work with public defender, district attorney to try to see what we can do to make sure that people are getting their hearings caught up to date. So at this point in time, it's a slow process, but we are moving in the right direction to making more face-to-face contacts. Thank you.
Thank you, Jorge. And that completes our presentation. Thank you, Dr. Hood.
Okay. Thank you very much.
A question.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chief. Go ahead, Pastor.
A few of our youth and community mentors were asking about the bike program that Jason used to do and wanted to know if bikes are still available.
I reached out to the sheriff's deputies at the reentry program that were conducting the bike event. Initially, we were requesting to see if we could get 100 bikes put together for the bike ride. Then the pandemic hit, and according to the deputies, they stopped at that time all making of bicycles. And since the event's not taking place this year, I can reach back out to them, though, and see if there are any bikes available. And I can get back to you with how many numbers they do have available.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? Okay. Then thank you, Chief. And yeah, it takes 4 folks to replace Resh. Isn't it? Anyway, thank you for your presentations. Really appreciate it. I'm going to move on to the next agenda, and that is the Outreach and Communications Standing Committee. Unfortunately, Ms. Elizabeth Bustos is unable to attend, so I'm going to ask Commissioner Dana Brown if she would give a report on the Youth Standing Committee.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Hood. So since our last meeting on July 6th, when the commission approved the opportunity through the youth committee, which is age 15 to 25, and focused on policy, program, practice level systems change, and advocating with high-level policy and decision makers with a call to action with asks on solutions. So since that approval, thank you so much, Commission, for that. I had a wonderful meeting with Chief Adolfo Gonzalez about more intentional collaboration between the probation department and the youth committee. I've had ongoing conversations with Rudy Murphy, who's a resident at Solano Prison in Vacaville. He's the editor-in-chief of the Solana Chronicle. And so as we're all virtual right now, we're maximizing this opportunity to a couple of strands, which were in the presentation that was approved. Building on those couple of strands, one is grassroots, wrapping around all the great work that is happening here locally in San Diego County for residents when they leave jail or prison and return to their neighborhoods and their communities, our San Diego County community. And so with intention, having these digital resource kits, toolkits for residents when they leave jail or prison, to have these trusted grassroots service providers and the trauma-informed agencies and all of us, all the sphere of influence that all of us touch, cross-sector in a social ecological model, so that they really do have that opportunity for not just $200 and a bus pass, but a true opportunity of wrapping around them with healing-centered, equity-focused supports and services for not just them, not just the resident, and also their family. So that strand is continuing with intention to build capacity. The other strand is the higher level policy and influencing policy and systems change. And so I've continued to have a lot of high-level conversations with folks locally, regionally, statewide, and nationally, because what we're doing in San Diego County is such a microcosm of really deep-rooted work on systemic racism, on structural oppression, on equity, and leaning in and figuring this out together on how we really cross-sector in a social ecological model in utero and across the lifespan, how we really are helping our who we serve heal. And so knowing the youth, last Friday, Pastor Sandoval and I had a Zoom with Stephen Abrams. For those of you that come to Community Wrap on Monday nights, you know Stephen. He is a 17-year-old, been vested for 3 years. His internship is with Todd Gloria. He's been instrumental in drafting, along with others, legislation on gun and violence prevention. And he is joining our youth committee. I've had the blessing of Felicity Torbert. Many of you know her. She, bless you, Dr. Hood. She was one of the City Heights and Southeast youth that was instrumental in the development of the Youth-Led Trauma-Informed Care Code of Conduct. And that came out of the Strong Families Thriving Communities Initiative, which is focused on disparities in child welfare and juvenile justice in San Diego County, specific to Latinx, African American, and Native American families in our region. So all of that to share that our youth committee is having our first, since COVID, our first virtual meeting. It will be next Tuesday evening, June 22nd, from 4 to 6 p.m. I will be sharing with Pastor Sandoval the agenda, so it gets up, on the letterhead and posted publicly, and is, honoring the Brown Act. And encourage any of you here with youth ages 15 to 25, please consider having them join us. Stephen Abrams will be joining us. He'll be bringing other youth. And we really would like to maximize this opportunity virtually that all of us have right now in a pandemic with civil unrest and the wildfires, that we can figure this out together, and it'll be equity focused through the voice of the youth.
Do we have any questions for Commissioner Brown? I see a hand up. I'm not sure who that is.
Amanda,
okay.
Hi, Dana. Do you have a link or anything that you could send over? I'm thinking of an organization that might be interested in joining Youth Will.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, Sean Elo.
Yeah.
Yep. Perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll make sure he gets the agenda.
Great. Thank you.
Pastor Sandoval's office.
Stephen Abrams actually worked for him as well.
Oh,
so
perfect.
He's connecting the dots, just FYI.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great.
Are there any other questions? So again, thank you, Dana. Really appreciate that. The next agenda item is the Gang Documentation Ad Hoc Committee. Commissioner Genevieve Jones Wright. Genevieve, under the chair's report, I'm going to talk about the civic gang injunction. So what I'm going to suggest, if you don't mind, is just talk about the civic gang injunction. We did get a written response, and I want the commissioners to know. So just so that we know, back in October of 2019, almost a year ago, this commission, after having an extensive discussion, I believe there were several votes, but on the 9th of September of 2019, it was voted, and let me just read, the Commission on Gang Prevention and Intervention voted, recommend to the mayor and city council that all civil gang injunctions be eliminated in the city of San Diego. 2 opposed, 2 abstentions, and 10 in favor. That was almost over a year ago. After multiple requests and after our last meeting, our executive director asked myself and Genevieve to highlight some comments. And I'm going to read my comment, and then I'm going to read the response we got. So this, because we had not received a response, I wrote, my concern is that we are tasked with representing the community and giving advice and recommendations to the mayor and city council. Since I have been involved as a commissioner, we have made very few recommendations and certainly none more important than the elimination of gang injunctions. I believe that gang injunctions are archaic. This is my personal feeling that I told them. Unnecessary and punitive, non-trauma informed, rendering severe unintended consequences by criminalizing Black and brown youth for indefinite periods of time. In my humbled opinion, if we want to know what is meant by structural racism in the justice system, I believe this is a prime example. After deliberating and investigating this issue, the San Diego Gang Commission voted to eliminate these injunctions. We deserve action one way or the other, and if action is delayed, we demand a written response explaining the status of our recommendations. Genevieve also wrote a comment supporting that. What I received, the initial response was on September 2nd, which came from the city attorney's office. I'm not going to read it, but basically it kind of summarized what the city had done to minimize and take folks off the gang injunction, which we felt was not answering the response. And so another request was sent, and on the letterhead of Mayor Faulkner, I'm going to read to you the response that I got. Thank you for providing a recommendation to our office on October 7, 2019. We remain grateful to the Commission for its work to prevent gang violence in our city and look forward to receiving additional advice and counseling from the expert voices on this board. Over the last several months, in consultation with the City Attorney's Office, staff has evaluated the following recommendation: to recommend to the Mayor, City Council that all civil gang injunctions be eliminated in the City of San Diego. We note that gang injunctions are not controlled by either the City San Diego Charter or the San Diego Municipal Code, and therefore the Mayor and City Council do not have jurisdiction to pursue your requests. However, a case-by-case process is currently in effect. Where a judge may remove a gang injunction, the chief of police and city attorney regularly support these motions, and we are encouraged at the rate at which judges continue to remove injunctions at their request. More information on the process to remove gang injunctions is provided in an attached supplement memo from the city attorney's office. We look forward to your continued advice and remain grateful for your work on this critical subject. So that was the response we got. With that, I'm going to ask the person who chaired the Gang Documentation Committee if you care to respond and have any additional information. Commissioner Jones-Wright?
Thank you, Dr. Hood. I do, very quickly, and I apologize for the lighting in the room where I am, but I think it is very important for us to acknowledge that this particular commission is charged with advising the city as to all gang-related policy. And thank you for reading what your response was. I want to just highlight some of the portions of my response so that everyone is aware of what has been happening in the processes. So I don't have an updated report to give for the gang documentation committee because I would just be repeating what I have been saying over the last several meetings. So I echo your words and your sentiments. The city has been very silent as to our recommendation. We were supposed to have this item heard last year in at least November in a joint meeting with the Public Safety and Livable Neighborhoods Committee of the City Council. And I do want to correct the record to make sure that the record is very clear that there were 10 commissioners who voted in favor of this recommendation to eliminate civil gang injunctions. 2 commissioners abstained. There were no commissioners who opposed. So it was a unanimous vote. And so for me, it is a little frustrating that here we are a year out from our vote and there has been no movement. We have been having conflicting stories about where we are in the process. And so in July of this year, one of the responses that was given over to the city was mine, where I highlighted that I feel that the commission unanimously spoke and that our recommendation is falling on deaf ears as there has been no action. We've not been placed on an agenda at the city. The city attorney clearly, by the memo that was sent to you, Dr. Hood, has not looked into the issues, which is also something that we were told months ago, that the reason why it was not presented to city council is because the city attorney had this issue on her desk. My position very clearly is that we deserve to know what is going on and that this puts me in a very uncomfortable spot because I cannot advise community members on the status of our recommendation because I do not know the answer, and this does not engender trust in the work of our commission. I want to make it very clear that the Gang Documentation Committee worked hard on this issue for at least a year and a half, and we routinely met with representatives from the city attorney's office as well as the chief of police and officers from SDPD before we made this recommendation to the full commission. We also met with community members, both state and out of state, who were affected by the gang injunctions. We wrote and we presented a formal memo that supported the recommendation, and this lack of action and responsiveness on the part of the city is very disrespectful to the commission itself and the purpose behind its very creation. So, very simply put, while some officials may not agree with the recommendation of this commission, it is the recommendation of this commission, and process dictates that it must be heard and that council decides this action. Thank you.
So let me ask this because I'm not really sure the process. That's the answer we got. They said neither the city nor the city council has jurisdiction. My question, Pastor Sandoval, to the mayor is, who has jurisdiction? Somebody has jurisdiction. And I understand the city attorney's position as to how to interpret the law, how they're trying to minimize the impact. But I also understand, and I haven't looked at this in a while, there was 1 or 2 other geographic areas that decided to eliminate gang injunctions. I'm not really sure how that was done. So maybe one of the things is investigating how other communities were able to eliminate gang injunctions. And in San Diego, where does the jurisdiction lie? Is it at the state level? Is it at the county level? Is it at the city level? Is it at the court level? If we could get answers to that, those two things. So one is maybe investigate what happened in other communities that decided gang injunctions weren't necessary, what their process was, and who actually has jurisdiction here in San Diego. Do any other?
I will follow up with that. Who does? So that we can actually get a little bit more guidance on that. I don't know, Genevieve, I don't know if before I came on board, you guys had been doing a lot of work on this. Had the subcommittee done any research on how other cities got this passed?
Yes, we have, but I want to also make it very clear that there are 22 active gang injunctions throughout San Diego County. 6 are in the city of San Diego, and 2 belong to the city attorney. So this idea that the city doesn't have any jurisdiction or power doesn't make sense. This is the entire reason why our committee was meeting with SDPD and representatives from the city attorney office, because it is incumbent upon them that if they are to eliminate the gang injunctions, that they would go into court and make their request. And so this is an answer that the city can give us. To me, this is an attempt to pass the buck, and there is no buck to be passed. When we first started working on this issue about the civil gang injunctions, we were meeting with the city attorney's office regularly. They pawned it off on the San Diego Police Department, saying that they were the actual petitioners. The San Diego Police Department then said they needed to get on the same page as the city attorney's office. This is not anything that is outside the city's purview. We have the district attorney who also has implemented gang injunctions in the city of San Diego. But right now we're talking about the city's response. And the point is that it can only come from a request from the city or SDPD to walk into court and ask a judge to lift the orders. The bigger picture is that city council itself deals with ordinances and laws. And we just saw last week where the city attorney made a recommendation that an ordinance that's on the books is repealed because it was unconstitutional, it was archaic. And we also found that they used this particular law in a disproportionate way that affected African Americans here in San Diego. I'm not going to take an answer that the city attorney can't do anything. That is not an answer because it's not true. And so I really want us to push on this because this is absolutely in the purview and the jurisdiction of the city. There's nobody else who can do that because it is the city who has the 2 injunctions against 2 gangs in the city of San Diego. The rest would have to be taken up with the district attorney who has the other injunctions in the city of San Diego.
So, so let me say this. We recommend, we advise whoever has jurisdiction, and I don't really know who that is, should be able to come back to us and say, thank you for your advice. We disagree and we're not going to do it. Well, thank you for your advice. We're going to move forward and do it. I can take either answer. What I can't take is a no answer. And that's kind of what we're getting here. So if we can just find out who the jurisdiction is, and Commissioner Jones-Wright, I would appreciate, because I do know reading some information about some other cities that had injunctions removed. I don't know if they were city injunctions or kind of what they was, but learning what that process would be helpful. So I appreciate your efforts on this, Pastor Sandoval. I know you've been doing exactly what we've asked, but this is the response we had. So with that, I'll ask again on this report, any other commissioner, anybody else who was on that ad hoc committee want to make a comment? Okay. Then what I would do then, so that would include my report as well. I'm going to go to the next agenda, which is the Executive Director's Report.
Yeah, thank you. So as you see, the bullet point on the agenda for this year is winding down. COVID hit everyone like a train. And so it put a lot of, as far as like our retreat to put our tactical plan together, which is expiring at the end of this year. So previously there was a 5-year strategic plan previously. And after just trying to consulting with different people, instead of creating a 5-year plan, which is really big, really long, the idea of creating a smaller plan, a smaller tactical plan from 2021 to 2022. And so Amanda Brown, she's been hunting people down for KPIs. So we thank Amanda for her efforts. Key performance indicator is the approach the city is taking just to make sure that commissions are actually are relevant to the community, to make sure that we are setting goals, objectives, and meeting those on what we're doing as a Commission on Gang Prevention Intervention. So we're going to continue to reach out to commissioners. A perfect example of the presentation today from Workforce Partnership is that there may be commissioners here that you're doing a lot of prevention, intervention, and high-risk engagement already. So it's not really about recreating the wheel, but it's just bringing that information in, leveraging, networking with each other, and that can be reported back, which is basically how we've been traditionally doing that. There may be other commissioners that are not in charge of an agency or a program per se, but they are representing an actual district. For example, like Dana Brown, Commissioner Ray King, different other commissioners. And so for those commissioners, it may be Alberto Vasquez as well. We want to be creative as to how can those commissioners create a KPI, key performance indicator. And so we've been really brainstorming on this. And so we really want to put the ball on the court on what do you think your district needs? What are the needs in your district? And who on our resource list can help provide those needs? So not only do we want to identify, but we want to connect the dots to be a support to make sure if those dots are not connected, we can help make those bridge the gap, basically. And so, Amanda, would you like to just give a brief update on that tactical plan?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, as Pastor mentioned, I think, last year we were really focusing on, which commissioners were going to be a part of which bullet points. But as you can tell, and I've had conversations with most of you at this point, we're asking you what everyone's doing in your district or your school or whatever role you play so that we can actually highlight everything that you're doing and see what gaps we have. So after this, I'm probably going to send out to all the commissioners the most updated version of the tactical plan. And so you'll see, in addition to now signing up for each bullet point, at the very bottom of that plan will be an actual outline of what everyone's doing with their activity. So it's a lot more micro. It's a lot more, I would say, in depth. And so now the whole commission will be able to see, okay, Dana Brown is doing X, Y, and Z. Jesus is doing X, Y, and Z. So like Jesus said, it'll be more of a resource for everyone to see, maybe who is doing the same thing, wants to collaborate. What do we have that's missing? So we really wanted to flip it around and, like you said, put the ball in your court and not be so confined to just this plan, but what else are you doing that you want to highlight? So I'm getting ready to wrap that up. I only have to meet with a few more of you, and then we'll be able to share it out to the public, which we're excited about. And if anyone has any questions too, we can open it up.
Pastor Sandoval, there's a couple comments that have come through. May I please share?
Yes.
So Commissioner Martin had a question previously. I'm not sure if she still wants to ask that question. And then Commissioner Vasquez had shared, is there any way we can also see how our commission compares in response rates from the city or mayor's office to other commissions? So that I think they might be two different agenda items and not necessarily with respect to the executive report, but just wanted to pass along a couple things came through in the chat box.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. My comment was when you were presenting earlier, actually, so it's way past time. And all I was going to say was just lift up your work. I've worked with you now for almost 20 years. Back when I was a principal in City Heights, or vice principal and teacher in City Heights. And when you spoke today about Youth Voice, you've been about that for a very long time. And it's just, I love hearing your report and the way that you lift our youth voice. So that was an old item, but that's why I raised my hand back then. And thank you for the work that you've done. And it's been a pleasure working with you. I don't think people know that we've worked together. It's almost 20 years now. Thank you. And then Amanda, I know that we are going to have some more time. My assistant is looking for time for us to talk because I'd like to weigh in on some things around the tactical plan and some updates that I have from the school district's perspective to make it as meaningful and relevant and impactful as possible.
Beautiful. She actually scheduled that today. We're meeting on Wednesday.
Yay. Thank you.
Yay. You're welcome.
I would like to say something to Amanda as well. This is Pastor Archie. I'll make sure that I get with you in the next week or so.
All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Also, if there's anyone here representing the U.S. Attorney's Office, I did want to highlight that they did award a couple of grants in the community, and one of our partners, Youth Empowerment, was a recipient of one of those grants, and we're thankful for that. They're going to be facilitating a curriculum for parents called Parents on a Mission. So using this wraparound model as we're mentoring our youth, we also want to partner up and provide support to the parents as well through this curriculum. And so I don't know if there's anyone from the U.S. Attorney's Office. We just want to thank you for that.
Yeah, there was somebody who came on representing U.S. Attorney's Office. If he's available, we'd love to hear from him. Okay. He was on earlier. Okay.
So just real quick, if I can make a quick statement, Dr. Hood, this is Commissioner Vasquez. So on the remark that I made right here, I'm wondering, is there opportunity? I mean, this is kind of going back to the whole thing that yourself and Commissioner Jones Wright was talking about. And I'd really be interested in seeing if the mayor's office or the city in general is as slow in responding to other requests from other commissions. So, I don't know if there's a way to kind of find out what that looks like. I just, I don't want it to be that we're, that one entity that really takes that much longer to get responses. I think it should be equitable in that sense from the city and the mayor's office. So I'd be interested in pursuing that at some point.
Right. I do want to respond to some of that as well. When I first came on board and, we submitted the recommendation up the chain of command, I'll take the hit on the side that, because I asked other executive directors when they make a recommendation, how do they get a response faster, or, just to get some advice. And so when we do make a recommendation, it's important to note on the recommendation itself that we would like to hear something back within 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Put an actual timeline. So I'll take the hit on that because I did not put that on there. And so they received the recommendation, but they're like, oh, okay, thank you. There was no timeline on there and so I started sending more emails, making phone calls, and really just trying to get this going. So future recommendations, we definitely want to put 30-day notice, 60-day notice. We would like to hear something back.
So is there a set process for that, though, that all the commissions need to follow, or is it just based on, I got a connection over here in this council member's office, And so, based on the social capital that I'm going to get the response, or is it something that's set in place? That's a process that everybody needs to follow.
Yeah, no, I asked for that too, and there isn't one currently because each commission is different. Every commission is different on that. And so once the different, and the ones I asked, just the ones my colleagues that are close to me, the CAB and the CRB, and they basically just put, no, you got to put an actual, on the recommendation, put a timeline that you would like to come back. You would like to hear a response by a certain time.
So, Pastor Sandoval, let me say this. I appreciate your comments. I'm not going to allow you to take that hit. There's no reason whether we put 30 days, we never would have put a year for a response. So it is not, my name is Dr. Hood. I just speak truth to power. Something up there, I don't know whether it's political. I don't know whether it's uncomfortable. I don't really care. It's okay with me if they don't want to do it. They just say we disagree. We have the authority to change it because of reason A, B, or C. We're not going to do it. Passing the buck and acting like it's something that was already done is insulting. So I'm just interested in kind of respect. I understand as a commission we make recommendations and do not set policy. And our recommendations do not have to be implemented by them if there's good reason for it not to. But I haven't heard the good reason, and nor have I felt that we received the respect that we should have received. And I don't think that you're not putting that time frame on there would have made a difference in where we are today. So thank you for your efforts. So all we really want to know on that issue is who has the jurisdiction, and whoever that is, can they respond to us? I appreciate it.
Sure. Okay. So going on with the bullet points, our community wraparound gang prevention intervention is now meeting in person using social distancing, the masks, the whole nine, and a lot of other. Community wrap is one of the ones that we can do kind of like grassroots because of the restrictions that the county has right now to actually meet in person, or other nonprofit organizations. We did it outside, but we're practicing social distancing because a lot of the youth, a lot of the mentors were getting very anxious. They were getting very anxious to, just meeting on Zoom or phone calls. They wanted to meet in person. So, so far, so good. We're making sure we're doing safe distancing. And so we're meeting, actually tonight they're meeting. And one of our mentors is here. He couldn't do a public comment online because of the technology, but he did want to, I'm not sure, can he give a public comment right now, Dr. Hood? He's right here next to me.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Dr. Hood, and Adolfo, Chief, and then Mario and Dana. These are the persons I know them. I just wanted to say that me, myself, I'm a ex-gang member. I used to be from Shelltown. I was in probation. I was incarcerated, and I cleaned up myself. Now I'm a city employer. My site is Golden Hill Park, but right now I'm working at Convention Center, and that's that's the motivation that I like working with the youth, because me and Pastor Sandoval started the community wraparound a couple years ago. So here I am, 5-7 years later. I'm still helping mentoring the youth, and also I forgot who said that about the reentry, but the firefighters. I'm really like that, because I know Capuro, my close friend, he's a firefighter. He actually waited like almost 8 years to go in with the Cal Fire, and there was times that he was giving up, and then I told him keep moving forward, and it was both ways. We were accountable for each other, but if there's any way that we could help out the the firefighters, the inmates, to if there's any a faster way to help them get into the Caltrans or some kind of job that there is waiting for them. I think I heard Adrian or Andrew saying that they're able to go into the system to the Las Colinas and do interviews. So you know, I'm willing to help out. You know, so if anybody out there wants to get a hold of me, there's Pastor Sandoval that I work closely with him, and yeah, so I'm here to help out, and thank you guys for your guys' time. I really appreciate it.
I did want Irving to share because sometimes people don't know what the commission does. But Irving had first applied for a position as a rec center participant, you know, working with the youth, and he got denied because of his background, his record, his criminal background. And so we just took a step of faith. We wrote a letterhead with the city logo, who we are, what we do. I don't know how it worked out, but he got a second interview. He got approved, and he's now working as a rec leader. And he's been sent to the convention center, Alpha Project, and he just got like an award from them just because of his willingness to help, to assist, and to support. So sometimes these stories are not highlighted, but to give you another example, at our last wraparound meeting, the influence that a community mentor has that been there and done that, used to be involved in gangs, when they're sharing their stories. We had two youth that turned in a knife, 2 knives. They each turned in a knife. It was turn in your contraband. If you have any, turn it in. And we're telling them we're not confiscating it. It's you turn it in because you want to do what's right, and because you want to have integrity, because you want to be accountable. I know it's for protection, but if you have anything on you, and we had 2 of our youth that turned in a knife, I need to figure out what to do with it, because one was like this big, a big old knife this big, and another one, and I said, oh man, that one, he can get some time. So I don't know. I still have it there in the office. I got to figure out what to do with it, but
ask the
these
chief,
are impacts.
ask Adolfo to come and get it.
These are the impacts that our youth have, and I wanted to thank Probation, County, all of our commissioners for your advocacy, because little by little, they're giving these mentors that are coming out of the jails and prisons a second chance. So getting the documentation off, the civil gang injunctions off, that's just a step closer for them to be able to influence the youth that they once influenced in a negative, now they can influence them in a positive. And so we're going to keep trying. We're going to keep being persistent to be able to do that, so that we can continue to shine. When I share these stories with the California Prevention Network, they want to highlight us in conference settings. And so in the next year, they're going to bring their conference down here. We're going to merge it with our Community Mentor Summit and highlight we still got a lot of work to do, but there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of hope in the community. I also want to thank Pastor Archie for the CAS, Community Assistant Support Team, because even during the COVID shutdown, we were meeting during Zooms, and whenever you hear of a shooting or a stabbing, a homicide in the community, sometimes CAS doesn't get all the recognition, but there's a mobile response team that goes out through UPAC, Mothers with the Message, CAS, and that family, the victim and or the perpetrator's family, gets support from Mothers with the Message, the community mentors, church groups, food pantries. And so I wanted to give a shout out to Pastor Archie for that as well. And the work that CAS has been doing throughout, even during the COVID shutdown and the pandemic. And so any volunteers from the commission that would like to offer additional resources when we're doing these, what we call walk and knocks, you're free to join us. You're free to be part of that. And we're out there, just being out there to be a support to the community with any and every resource we can possibly offer them. So I want to thank Pastor Archie for that as well.
So let me ask you this. I really meant to ask this earlier. and I'll direct it at you because this is your report, but anybody else on the phone. With the COVID, there has been early release. Have we noticed any impact in any of the programs that we work with from the early release? How has that impacted our community as far as gang-related activity?
I think the last time on the law enforcement side, it's hard for them to tell how it's impacting. On the community side, the COVID, the quarantine has got a lot of youth frustrated a little bit because, you know, they're being asked to stay home, and because of the heat, they're outdoors. They're out there kicking it. They're doing their thing. And so I know on one side it does increase. We just had a funeral for Fabian Martinez. He was shot, and he was one of our youth. He didn't make it. He was 21 years old, but he was out there. He was out there kicking it. And as the saying goes, when you play with fire, you're going to get burned. And so we're constantly telling our youth, you know, if you're bored, and, you know, they might get in a fight, you know, at home. So they're out there. They're out there on the streets. And so it is impacting because a lot of people are frustrated. Even parents feel the pressure. Maybe they're not, they don't have air conditioning in their house. Small things like that. And you got, you know, 8 people living in a 1-bedroom house or a 2-bedroom. So they're all together. So what the natural thing is to go out and get some fresh air. But to do that, you're talking about high-risk areas and people that don't get along. They see each other, and because of the trauma and the violence and everything, things can escalate really quick. They escalate just like that. And so we had another funeral for Brian Martinez, a 30-year-old. He got recruited by the cartels down south. We don't talk about that a lot, but a lot of the cartels are offering money, cross this, cross that. They get caught. And sometimes there's so many incidences we've been doing where they get kidnapped or they get killed over there. But because it happened over there, we don't hear about it over here. And then we're helping the families with the paperwork, how to get the body back on this side so that we can do the funeral here. And so a lot of that's going on too because of the proximity to the border and the temptation of making quick cash, quick money. And so for gang-involved youth, when they fall off the tightrope, they don't just get an owie on the knee. It's really a matter of life and death. When we do a gang training, a gang presentation, it's almost like doggy years for the homies. 1 year for a gang member is like if they were out here for 7 years because it's day to day. And Dana does a good job talking about living on fight or flight, flight or freeze, that the amygdala and all that, how they're just, it's a moment by moment and things happen really fast. And that's why when we hear about the violence, when we hear about the shootings or the stabbings, it's usually someone that violated a street code somewhere with someone. Yeah. And a lot of the young generation, if they don't respect the other generations, they cross someone, they cross the wrong person, and that's what ends up happening. But with the help of the community mentors that have some credibility, they're able to try to talk to a lot of people to calm the tensions down. So there's because of the street code and stuff, we don't highlight those conversations. We don't highlight what we're doing because we don't want it to say, hey, you guys are reporting it on YouTube. You're reporting it everywhere else. We're keeping those on a need-to-know basis. Our thing is to create peace and try to get someone a job, try to get them to school, try to get them to go to the next step of their life.
Okay. Thank you, Pastor Val. Is that the India presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Any commissioners have any comments or after comments?
Dr. Hood, I just want to say thank you to all the probation staff that came on board tonight. It won't take 4 to replace Jason, but we'll make sure that we cover both the adult and the juvenile side since we did bifurcate the probation department. We really focus on a lot of the reentry for the adult side, but also working with the youth and the other group. We're talking about those from 18 to 25 and see what we can do for programming and services for that particular population. As you know, there's a lot of legislation before the governor right now. He signed a lot of bills. One of them is 1950, which is a reduction of probation terms that could, for individuals. Right now, the proposal is if you're a felony, 2-year probation, for misdemeanor, 1-year probation. There's a lot of issues with that particular bill. And the other bill is the DJJ, SBS 823, which will keep the juvenile from going to the state CYA or the state youth detention, juvenile detention facility. They'll stay here locally in the county, and we try to figure out how we can provide services to that high need population. Many of them have high needs for arson, sexual assaults, rape, extremely violent, in there for multiple murders, for example, and provide services that we don't currently have in the county, give those services here for the young population, so they can be successful when they complete the term and are released back into the community. But we'll be talking about that more later on. Obviously, we need your help in making that possible once the bill gets signed by the governor. We're expected to be at September 30th. We'll hear more first week of October.
Okay. Thank you for that.
I would just like to ask if Captain Adolfo, if you could send a representatives now that we got somebody in line to cast meetings, because that's another part of what we want to hear from as well. It keeps everything in line with what we're doing. Gives us an insight on what probation is doing.
Absolutely. We have Tabitha and we have Jorge that would be taking the lead on that.
All right. Yeah. Pastor Sandoval sent out the Zoom meeting call.
So, so let me just announce the the CAS meetings at the second Thursday of every month, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Second Thursday of every month, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And Pastor Sandoval, thank you for all you do. Somehow or another, I think you should you got that young man a job, I think, and publish it. I think that's a good story. Elizabeth is not on the thing, but I know we were looking for stories. I think that would be an excellent story to show some effectiveness. So that being said, I think we can end early. If there are no more questions, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion. Sorry, Pastor Aaron.
That's okay. That's fine. I was just going to say second, so you go ahead and do it.
I'll make a motion for us to adjourn.
So it's been moved in second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I want everybody to stay safe and wear a mask.
Thank you, Dr. Hood.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye,
Put that
everyone.
mask on, Sandoval. Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night.